That lunch was delicious.
Very, very good.
Oprah's chef made us that delicious Mexican culinary delight. I love how it was also packaged in little to-go containers. That was actually really good. I really enjoyed that. I feel like it was very authentic.
Very.
Yes, I had authentic carnitas French fries, which were French fries topped with cheese, smothered with sour cream, guacamole, salsa, and carnitas. And now I feel like a carnitas.
Oh, yeah. I'm ready to go to bed after this.
I know. I'm kind of sleepy. I'm actually going to get into the pool in a little bit.
What if they poisoned us? It's all fentanyl.
You're not that important, P. Diddy. You're good.
I love it.
Louis, you just keep getting further and further away from me.
You would think, though, after doing Ozempic and all the other shots for weight loss, that I would not be hungry. But here we are. I'm hungry. I'm the only person who've gained weight on those.
Oh, God.
Imagine it doesn't work on you.
But my personality got better.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Definitely.
yeah. Everybody, welcome back to Do It Like Danny. I'm going to tell a million stories, and maybe one will hit home, and you'll be like, wow, that happened to me. And it's not about me. Well, it is. You know, television is a very, very crazy beast. I learned so much at Tyra. This is real emotion. This is something that I experienced.
I want the world to see what I have always seen, and that is the love that you have for just being yourself.
I love this person who knows who he is, who can make people laugh.
I think the script I gave you was a little bit different, but I'll take that.
Okay. Sorry.
I'm drinking at work because it's my show. I drink on my show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Do It Like Danny, the dramedy, the comedy, the drama, a combination of both. If you were watching last week's episodes you've been liking, following, and subscribing and telling all your friends, we really do appreciate it. We're going to be having a contest soon. Can't give you all of the details quite just yet because our lawyers are currently working them out with Oprah's people. But we're going to be having a contest.
Here comes one of Oprah's people now.
We've employed quite a few of her people. She's on the Harris campaign. Thank you so much. Thank you. Love you.
It's like a drive-by.
So that's f***ing good. Holy shit. Damn, he's good.
Miguel is very good.
Oh my God. I love his.
He looks like a Miguel.
I love that you dressed him up in that little thong.
Oh, God.
He has to wear some clothes. It's illegal.
That's refreshing.
Oh, now you're awake.
Oh my goodness.
It's a little bump, and now he's like, oh, my God, I'm awake now.
My insulin levels are peaking.
A little Coke and whiskey will wake anybody up.
I'm awake. So, as I said earlier, if you were watching the last week's episodes, you remember that Angelo asked me a question in regards to television creating a family atmosphere. He also compared the show that I felt was the most family-like, which was Tyra, compared to the most recent show that I had worked on called The Talk, which was not so family-like. And if there was a corresponding, theme or difference, because Tyra was solo and then there were 5 principals on The Talk. So, in regards to that question, that's a great question that you brought up, number one. Number two, I think it trickles down from the top, right? Mm-hmm. So if you, at the top, which was Tyra, she really promoted a family-like atmosphere. Yes, there were the executives, but I don't think Tyra really knew at the end of the day, and I don't think a lot of principals know. Yes, the executives are there to dance the puppets around, but at the end of the day, the puppets have the control.
Oh.
And I don't think that Tyra knew that. I don't think Tyra knew that she had as much, I don't know, it's just power or control. Maybe influence is probably a better word to describe.
Would you say she might have been a little naive coming from being in fashion and then moving on to TV?
Yeah. I mean, listen, maybe that's why we got along so well. I was extremely naive. I mean, I had worked at Ellen and very low end of the totem pole and had gotten exposed to so many different things. Although I had worked on award shows prior to that, that was, and I think maybe I've shared some stories where I thought everybody was, showing up in their own limos, but that was not the case.
Yeah.
Everybody was already on site, and they were just funneling them from the back of the studio to the front of the studio in the same limos, unless somebody asked for something different, like P. Diddy and so on and so forth. But that was a shocker to me. It was a shocker at Ellen when here I thought that the games that people played, the winners were random.
Yeah.
That was produced.
Oh,
We got to get into those also too.
that's actually a very interesting piece of information.
Yeah. So
Or because they want you to come.
yeah,
At the end of the day.
I don't
Yeah.
want to. We got to put a pin in that one.
Yeah.
That's a little juicy. Like, here's a carrot.
Stay
back.
tuned. Yeah.
We're gonna tell. You don't know which episode's gonna come in, but it's gonna be coming up in an episode. Delicious.
Don't say you don't learn something new on the Do It Like Danny show.
Right? Or people are like, what am I gonna do with that information? The show's over. I'm like, oh, maybe my show will do it. No, I'm just kidding. So, so that was the again, going back to Tyra and I being naive, and I don't know. I mean, she came from modeling. I think there were a lot of things that she didn't know, and I think the executives kind of took advantage of that.
Yeah.
There was the host whisperer, who is John, who is an amazing executive producer because he could get any celebrity to do anything.
Yeah.
He just has a rapport with celebrities, and that's why they called him the host whisperer, because he could get Tyra to do anything. And I mean, here's the thing. They didn't ask her for, like, insane things at all, in my mind. And then when we went on to the talk, John was also an executive there, too. But it was definitely different at the talk. 5 women. And actually in the beginning there were 6 because it was Marissa Winokur that was on it, and she was like part of field stuff, right? This is like way back.
Way back, yeah.
And then, there were the 5 ladies.
Right.
And they had done a pilot. I was a part of the pilot. They shot that to shoot it for to see the chemistry. I mean, word on the street was this show was going to go no matter what.
Oh, wow.
Only because although Sarah Gilbert was the main influence in terms of executive producer, Julie Chen was on it. And Julie Chen, for those of you who don't know, was married to
Last Moonves.
Oscar de la Renta. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. To Les Moonves. And Les Moonves obviously is a patriarch in television because he's been around for so long, and he has been a part of so many different things that were a part of the CBS family.
And
right?
a big hoe.
And a big hoe.
Oh.
Like, he's the white version of P. Diddy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
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 And so when I shot the pilot for the talk, there was no question. They were all 1,000,000% sure that it was going to go to air, and it did. And we didn't start in the normal, September premiere. We started in October. But I've kind of gone off again on my stories like I normally do. Going back to the main question when we left and you asked me, listen, the talk was amazing in the beginning. We were having so much fun, as with anything, right? Yeah. But then there were little bits and pieces of the yarn spoodle that began to kind of unravel.
Right away, or did it take a
Oh,
little
absolutely
while?
right away.
Wow.
Before it even started. I mean, executives were getting fired. John still stayed there. And people were getting fired, and John still stayed there. And, people were being brought in, and people got... one lady, her name was Susan. I think her name was Susan. Shit, I don't remember. Kevin will remember. They brought her in. She was there for less than 2 weeks, and they paid her out because the ladies didn't want her as an executive producer.
Interesting.
But John was still there. And so I think it's interesting that the main catalyst in all of this has been John. And I'm not saying anything negative about him because, you know what? He asked me to work on the show. So there's a part of me that feels very loyal to him.
Sure.
And deep inside, I don't think John had a bad bone in his body. I think John was trying to survive like a cockroach in water like the rest of us.
Yeah.
So
Because you can position it and say that, oh, you were swimming among sharks, but we really weren't. It was the Titanic and the rats were scrambling just to stay afloat.
Wow.
And I think that's a horrible thing to say, but I think that is an exact representation of most productions in television. People are willing to cut off a leg to go higher. People are willing to cut off your leg to go higher.
Oh, yeah.
There are so many things that are beyond cutthroat, and I really experienced that a lot at the talk. But going back to the main story of the 5 ladies, you know, I got to give the executives some a little credit to be able to manage. And for John, in the end, John was the lone person as the executive producer. Because I think at that point, I think the higher-ups had tried so hard to make the show better, and the ladies were so used to John because he was the host whisperer. He was the mermaid siren whispering the songs that they wanted to hear. And let me tell you, that would make me tired to have to manipulate, because that's basically a better word for saying producer.
5 different people.
To go from manipulating one person to manipulating 5 of them, that takes a lot of fucking work.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I have to tip my hat off to him, because I'm tired trying to manipulate you two. I'm sorry, you were going to ask me a question.
Well, it's not just 5 people. It is 5 big personalities that you're dealing
Just
with.
say it, ego.
Ego. And so I was curious, though, do you think that John, I mean, a lot of people left, right, around him, but did he have what it took to make it happen? That's why another aspect of his survival? Like, did he have the chops to stay in the game?
Well, I will say this. CBS is very interesting. They don't believe in making things better.
Oh.
CBS believes that if it's working, well, why are we trying to fix it?
Interesting.
Let's duplicate this environment.
So why did they get rid of Connie Chung?
Was she on Channel 2? My God. Because Maury was the father?
Oh.
What experience did you have to, say something like that?
What do you mean?
To say that they didn't ever want to improve it. They just want, if it's working, stick to it.
So,
Oh.
prime example, because we would try to change things, and producers in the beginning, even Leah Remini, Leah was like, this show would be so much better if. Holly Robinson Pete, this show would be so much better if. And at that time, I actually loved Julie Chen. I was such a big fan of Big Brother. I was a fan of hers. I'm not going to lie. I loved Big Brother religiously. And I was like, wow, this is kind of interesting. I mean, this like polarizing character that's been in the news. She's so well known. She's known for being the Chen bot and so on and so forth. And I kind of felt like I kind of want to kind of get to know her, right? I want to see what she's made of.
Yeah.
Right? Because, when you encounter these celebrities, it's mere seconds sometimes. It's
Superficial.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. It's face value right there.
But when you're working on a production, you kind of see when the curtain kind of falls, right? And we'll go more into this, but I revered her. How do you fucking say that?
Reveal? No.
Revered? I revered her, right?
Revered.
I
Like
revered
admired.
Julie Chen, right? Is that even said right? I revered. I've been having too many libations. I'm Darnella.
And I don't have to edit it all, so that's great.
Yeah, so sorry. Again, I was excited to work with Julie Chen. I put her on a pedestal, and I really didn't tell people that, because it's like, why would you tell people that you like Julie Chen, right? And I get it. I understand. I was really excited to work with Leah Remini.
Yeah.
Like Leah Remini, I was like, oh my God, I loved her in King of Queens. And she's such a, again, polarizing character, has no filter. I have no filter,
Yeah.
And I felt like, ooh, if I was ever going to get along with someone,
It was her.
it was going to be her, right?
Yeah.
Wrong. And so then there was Mrs. O, and Mrs. O is iconic. Sharon Osbourne is, known for, saving Ozzy's life. And she is, let me tell you, that woman is a business woman.
Oh, yeah.
She knows how to brand and market and sell her family.
She's just like her father.
She's
Crazy.
amazing.
She's a Kris Jenner.
Oh, she's the OG
Yeah.
pimp mama.
Yep.
Yeah, because Kris Jenner's mom. Kris Jenner is a pimp. Anyway, so and then there was Holly Robinson Pete, or Holly Pete Robinson. I always f that up. And I mean, she was on 21 Jump Street, but she did a lot of philanthropy work, right?
Yeah,
she
yeah,
was
yeah.
really well known in the celebrity circles because she was always doing something for charity, right? Which at the end of the day, I didn't realize that charity just means making themselves money. So then there was Sarah Gilbert, right? So Sarah Gilbert was was great because it's imagine, you go to Home Depot and you buy a can of paint and you paint
watch
a
it.
pole and then you're like, I'm going to watch this paint dry.
Was she on the show?
Exactly. And you sit there and you're like, ooh, the paint is drying, right?
Oh, yeah.
God bless her. My only complaint and gripe with Sarah was I expected her to be a little more active in the community. She didn't really become active in the community until she was with Linda Perry. And Linda Perry is oh my God. Linda Perry is amazing and wonderful. And I have a great story about that. So I should just tell it. I'm going to totally be Angelo right now. So Linda Perry was walking down Ventura Boulevard, and I pulled over, and I was like, Linda Perry. And she's like, you fucking bitch, right? I was like, oh, my God, right? Because Linda Perry, we used to talk shit to each other all the fucking time, right? Amazing individual, so down to earth. And she's iconic. She's responsible for so many genres of music, so many people's music in general. And for her to be, to me, that's a huge celebrity talent.
Yeah.
And for her to be so normal with me as if we were being in craft service and we'd be getting food and she'd be like, man, whatever, what's up with the and I'm like, what's going on with the like, and just to have that banter.
Yeah.
Like, that was amazing to me.
Well, she was down to
personally.
earth.
She was extremely
Yeah.
down to earth. And I know that I was making fun of Sarah earlier, but I think Sarah just grew up, I think, in a different, limelight. She always had that dry, quirky sense of humor, and she was always, what was her name? Oh, she was Darlene.
Darlene, yeah.
On Roseanne. And that is probably very close a little bit to her character. But, she took it a stretch further because she was always like everything had to be organic and her kids had to be vegan. And it was just like, it was too much, right? But listen, to each his own.
But she also didn't have that big star personality like the other ladies did.
Right,
Honestly,
right.
all of those other ones really, they seemed more personable, and she never did. Even I remember going to some of her tapings when they would do like cut to commercial. It almost seemed like she would just sit there and stare.
Yeah.
And maybe she would look over and talk to somebody, but it would be at that table. But for the most part, it was just like, I'm just going to sit here and stare.
No,
and
you're
look
not
forward.
wrong.
Oh, yeah.
She would
Yeah.
get these like, and the mouth would open, and then you would hear the director, Sarah zoning out.
Oh, wow.
And then you'd see a stage manager,
Right.
right?
Waving her in.
Waving her in. And they'd be like, Sarah. Yeah, so, I mean, listen, can we all be perfect? No.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't.
I just don't know if the sitting at a table with women talking was really her thing.
Well, also, too, I mean, she wasn't relatable.
Thank you.
Like,
Yeah.
she didn't, again,
She didn't bring anything.
I always said that the show would have been so much better if all of the ladies had chosen a platform. Julie Chen, human trafficking. Sarah, something for the community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mrs. O, something for veterans or, rockers on drugs. I don't know. I'm spouting shit off. But they all needed to have a platform because they weren't relatable. Mrs. O, yes, because of her stardom with Ozzy. But
people love her because she was funny.
yeah,
Period.
she was
She
a
could
comedy
literally
relief.
throw money at you and be the worst person, but people would love her because she was just so damn funny.
She actually came up when I went to one of the tapings. She went up the stairs and pulled her over, and I just said, you're wonderful and great. Introduced her to my mom, and she was lovely.
Oh, yeah.
So-
I mean, I have to admit. But I'm just curious, before we go too far, was Leah in Scientology still at that
Yes.
time?
Yes, I
Oh,
think
okay,
she
so
was
she
in the
was
cusp of leaving.
Oh, okay.
I think she was in the cusp of leaving, but she didn't leave until after our show. She was still
okay.
in it during our show, and that is how I'm convinced we got a lot of the celebrities that we did. Our season 1 was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
We had Jennifer Lopez. We had Will and Jada. We had Justin Bieber. We had, you go down the list of celebrities. There was a crap load of them that
So-
came on season 1.
Should we thank Scientology or not thank Scientology?
I don't know. Do you think cults?
But what a great place to really be in for you at the conception of the show, because there's no egos in place. They may be from previous work, but really you guys are all, your common goal is to make this work, kind of like
Kinda like this
jumping
show.
on board with you two guys. I mean, I had no idea, honestly. I thought I'd be a guest celebrity, whatever.
Then we found out you were boring, and it was better this way.
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm on it regular. No, but in all honesty, you can cut all that out. In all honesty, you were at the beginning of something that nobody had any idea where it would go. So your goal, your common goal, was to make it work.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is I kind of feel like I had always been prepped. You know, working at Cheesecake, or even when I was back then Mimi's, like I opened up other Mimi's cafes. I was sent in to open other restaurants with a team, not by myself.
Yeah.
And the same goes for Cheesecake Factory. I made a name for myself, and I was able to go in, and we were able to roll with the punches, even
I think
Grand Lux. So when I got into television, I feel that I had already been prepared. At Ellen, I came in like a few weeks after it had started. And let me tell you, back in the day, it was so hard to get people to come to the tapings. We were booking the same people every single day. And then I was running into Johnny Carson Park and just trying to get people. I was going to Acapulco. I was hitting the streets.
Wow.
And it's really funny because, you know, when we went to Tyra, I taught my staff that, right? How to go into the streets and find
Recruit.
people. We were very lucky at Tyra because at Tyra, we were right next to the farmer's market.
Oh.
So you could get tour buses of people, and they may have not spoken any English, but let me tell you, you said Tyra Banks, they came.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, we called it shopping.
Yeah.
We need to go shopping, right? Because you weren't really allowed to do it, and you didn't want the executives to know that you were doing
Yep.
it. But the reality is, audience is the worst job ever.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Well, because you don't know what the attrition rate is going to be, and you don't really know, like, is it going to be sunny? Like, New York was backwards. When we moved to New York, if it was going to be snowy, rainy, and, like, Mother Nature was like, F off to the world, we were full. But on a beautiful day like this, you were like, oh, you got to book extra people because people wanted to be out. They didn't want to go to a
Park.
TV
They
show.
wanted to be in Central Park.
Yeah.
I actually came across this one time. I went to that WB behind the studio tours that they do.
Uh-huh.
And as I was leaving, there were two representatives at the exit door. Oh, would you like to see a taping of the Conan O'Brien show? And this was
wow.
already past when he had been on the Tonight Show and whatnot. And then, you know, he got let go, and now he was at CBS or TNT, whatever it was. And I remember thinking to myself, like, that's weird. Like, I thought everybody wanted to see Conan. I thought, you know, there would be lines or a waiting list, and there wasn't. And I went to go see a taping, and that was kind of cool to see. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how that works. And it's not just at one studio. It seems like it's a thing for all studios to do that.
So that's kind of what we would do. That's kind of referring back to what we would call shopping.
Yeah.
And so they would go in with their walkie-talkies, and if we were like 20 people, then they would get 20 people. Now, if those 20 people eventually showed up, then they were late, and we would either we figured out a way to, you know, put people.
Get them in there, yeah.
I also learned from one of the coordinators from Ellen. I learned how to spread people out. I learned how to remove some chairs here and there. I learned how to reconfigure certain things because you have to problem solve.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And because it's such, and I go back saying audience is the worst job. Listen, it was a lot of fun. I only meant that it was worse in the effect that you don't know what's happening.
Yeah. It's
You've
different
no
probably
clue.
every day, right?
You have no clue. It is beyond different every single day because you don't know if like Mary's going to get sick or, you know, I mean, there was this one family at Ellen, and I keep going back and forth. There's this one family at Ellen that literally would recycle cans, and then they would call us and say, oh, we saved enough money for a tank of gas. They lived in Lancaster. We can come to the episode.
Oh.
And they would sleep in their car, and they would come the
Wow.
next day. And then they would go back. Right? So it was wild.
Yeah.
And, you know, the executives were like, we need people. And people weren't coming. So then they started to do giveaways. So in September, it started to pick up. It got slightly easier, right? It was still hard. We were still shopping. October, you know, we were starting to pick up. November, more giveaways. And then December hit.
Christmas time.
And we did the 12 days of Christmas with Ellen. And we were out bagging stuff. We worked like a 24-hour shift. Like, it was wild. It was wild.
Yeah.
And it blew up. After that, did we have a problem? I can't remember.
Maybe
If
not
there
as
were-
often.
If there were days, but it wasn't as often. And then, if I don't know if you remember at Ellen, they had the experience, which was the overflow room, which was the worst seat in the house. So it was the stage, and then this thin wall, and behind that thin wall was where we had people waiting. So once you got a ticket into the episode, right, then they would, go into this waiting room where they all had numbers. Then you get called by your number, you go up and you get sat, right? That's how it was supposed to work. Meanwhile, everyone that didn't have a seat was outside still, and the executives always wanted us to overbook because they always wanted people in the experience room, right? So,
That sounds fun.
it gets better.
I'm sure there's a lot of angry people, too.
Oh,
yeah.
you have no idea. We
God.
got yelled at every single day because you were watching on TVs on these little couches, and you could hear the people. So when Ellen would say, "You're all going to go home with," right? They got it, but not the people in the experience.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. So that created a whole slew of problems, right? So we invited folks back to come. Everyone that went to the experience was invited back. But then guess what? If there was a giveaway on that day, then they go, "We want to come back on a giveaway only. You should give that to us." And it's like, we can't promise that. Because although giveaways could have been scheduled, things fall out.
Yep.
Sure.
This I learned later on in life at the talk when I was doing giveaways part-time. And so there was just so many moving parts, and nobody ever cared about the audience. And so one day, this kid Rodney was like, "We should yell, and we should get Ellen to come back here." And so he told the audience members that in the experience, if you yell enough, she'll come back here. And so we did that. Well, then that caught on. And let me tell you, that ended very quickly.
So much for that.
So much for that, because we wanted people to at least get to see her. You're going to go into a room that you're separated by a thin wall. You hear what's going on. You see on a TV screen. It was the worst idea ever. They should have just dismissed people.
Who created that idea? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No.
interrupt you.
It was originally the audience holding room. All places have audience holding areas,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And this one was air conditioned. It was inside. There was plenty of room. We were in the old, I can't remember if it's Johnny Carr. We were in the old Jay Leno stage.
Okay.
It was huge. There were two huge studios that were connected to each other. One held offices and giveaways and like a big, huge warehouse. And food for staff, and then the other one was the actual stage itself. I mean, the audience sat, I think, almost 300 people.
So were they watching off a monitor in that experience room? They couldn't see the stage.
They were watching off of a TV monitor.
Monitor.
There were like 3 TVs in the back there. Now, where it would get a little exciting is during certain segments, they would build things back there. Like one time, I think we had a bowling person, and they built like a portable bowling alley back there.
Oh.
And so then audience members could kind of stand around. There was something that was going on. So from there, we complained and said, "You need to do this, you need to do that." And then eventually they began to build the area up. Things that Ellen had sent to her, and just all these different things that were interactive, right? And then eventually that spawned a store where people could buy things, and so it just, it became a business at that point. But how I knew how to create that environment for Ellen, that helped me at the talk, because here you have 5 ladies that come on stage, 5 of them, not just one, 5 of them. They do their thing, and as soon as the show is over, they were fucking gone.
They were gone.
Yeah.
They did not hang around.
They
I remember one time we
did
were out of
not.
there. Sarah Gilbert just
Yeah.
in her car, whatever
Yeah.
Mercedes she was driving, she took off.
Wow.
So as an audience producer, I had to fight for the audience. I had to fight with the executives and say, "You want to know why people are not coming back? This is the reason why. Because they come, it's a one and done. Why would I come to a show in the middle of the day? I have to take off of work. It's not Ellen.
Yeah.
It's not Ellen.
Yeah.
Why am I coming? Right? Because they wanted younger. They wanted hotter. We want Ellen's audience. We want Ellen's audience. We want Ellen's. And because I had worked at Ellen, they thought that I could just go pilfer some of those women over there. They didn't want to come to the show.
Right.
They didn't want to come to the
Interesting.
show at
That's
all.
so interesting.
We
Yeah.
only had retirees, folks that didn't have jobs, folks that considered giveaways their job, which we'll go into more of that later. A slew of families that would just come, and because nobody wanted to come to the show.
Yeah.
And how do you communicate that to 5 egos?
Yeah.
You know, you tell the executives would tell, oh, it's great. We're so good. We have tons of ticket requests. We didn't.
Not the case.
What was your response when you brought that up to executives?
Brought what?
When you would say, this is why people don't want to come back. This is why we're having such a hard problem.
Oh, because executives don't think on that level. Executives are there to address the puppets, right? They don't care about anything
So
else.
they would just dismiss it?
They looked at me like, that's your job.
Got it.
But they don't come there to visit me. The people came to visit the hosts. So we came up with a plan. And the plan was every day after the show, one of the hosts will thank them, thank you so much, and say goodbye. Kind of led into a few questions here and there. We tried the Q&A with the audience, but again, they were too ugly. They didn't want them. Some people were missing teeth. Some people were like, you know, and they were the most enthusiastic. And that's kind of hard.
Yeah.
When some of your enthusiastic people weren't television ready.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Terrible
that's the
term.
best way to say it. Like, they weren't television ready.
Yeah.
And then it reflected on me. Danny, these are terrible people. Da, 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 and you're like, oh my God, like, this is what we have.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
what
the
you're
majority of our show, they were probably all over 70.
Oh my
And
God.
they were all needing accessibility. That's a whole nother slew of issues that came out about.
Can I just say, I think it's sad that you actually have to tell people who are in front of the camera to come out and thank people to come onto the show.
yeah.
You would think out of those 5 ladies who have been in the public eye would know that already, to be a little bit more hospitable to the people who come to watch their show. I don't know. Is that just me?
Here's the thing.
No.
You had Leah Remini, who probably thought she was way too cool for school.
Yeah.
You had Holly Robinson, Pete Robinson, whatever her name was. Did you want to hear from her? Right? You had
Okay.
Mrs. O, and Mrs. O, when Mrs. O would go out there, of course, it was obviously like
Yeah.
amazing.
She was the favorite.
She was the favorite. And then you had Julie Chen, who people really want to hear from her.
Right.
And the sad part is I think Julie did it the most. Her and Mrs. O. Sarah would do it every once in a while, but I think I have to defend Sarah a little bit. I think Sarah was just so shy, which is interesting to me because you're in front of the camera and
You're on a talk
you're this
show.
shy person in real life. And she would come out and she'd be like, thank you so much for coming. And it was very quiet, you know, very like, you know, low energy. And then she would kind of go off and do her own thing.
So you defend Sarah, but you won't defend me. Got it.
Who's Louis? I didn't even know Louis was here. I feel very low energy.
She's arrived. She's arrived.
After that burrito.
Okay, continue.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, there's and I get it. You know, if you were to bring this up to other producers and executives, they'd say, "Well, that's what we hired you for."
Wow.
But there's only so much as a human being that I could have done.
Yeah. You couldn't
know,
change the dynamics.
We even took old giveaways and we're like, "Oh, we're having a raffle." I mean, listen, we did a standby system. I mean, there literally were so many things that were put into place to ensure that we always had a full audience.
Yeah.
That I don't even think to this day any of the executives or even the talent will ever appreciate or even realize. Right?
You also couldn't change who came and who went. You know what I'm saying? The show was going to appeal to a certain audience. That wasn't your job. That was the executive's job. If this is what we're getting, we need to change it up, but they never did. So that, in my mind, isn't your fault. That's their fault. Because if that's what the show's attracting, you have no control over that.
And it's not just to piggyback off of that. It's not just the hostesses or the principals that they're going to see. It's the guest.
Yeah.
So if a Justin Bieber is going to be on the show, you're not going to have any shortage of people wanting to be at that
No.
table.
Correct. We had 500 for that
But
particular
if it's
episode.
John Smith from Canoga Park, good luck getting
we had
somebody.
5 people.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you go back to that Justin Bieber episode, there was people surrounding.
They built
Yeah.
special scaffolding.
On top of the people that were already in the stands, the whole entire stage had people. It looked like all the way into the back.
Yeah.
And it was
Were you there,
crazy.
Cousin Louis?
There was
No,
a,
but
there
I
was a
see.
lot of
Oh,
people
oh,
there.
yeah,
And
yeah,
your sisters are in that
Yeah,
episode
my
too.
sister was, yeah.
I thought you were a Bieberette.
No.
Ah,
God, no.
there are
But just real quickly, I want to touch back on something you were talking about with your previous jobs and how they help, prep you for this moment. They taught you leadership and how to guide people through the process when you're going and opening other stores. For example, for Cheesecake Factory, you had to take on that leadership position and deal with large amounts of people. So I think that kind of, everything prepares us for the next step in life.
Yeah.
No, you're totally right. I mean, listen, when I worked at the beginning of it was, well, I mean, listen, Taco Bell Del Taco back in the days when I was 15 taught me hard work.
Yeah.
Right? Mimi's taught me the details. Mimi's was very detail oriented, and Cheesecake Factory rounded me out. Cheesecake Factory not only was the devil in the details, but they were the devil in the food. And I mean that with the nicest of compliments, right? And their food was delicious. And back in the day, it was amazing.
The
And
ranch
it
was
still
good
is
then.
amazing. And the portions were incredible. And, listen, there's so much to say about the Cheesecake Factory brand. And, of course, obviously, it's changed over the years, as with most things do. When this show first started, what it was and what it is today,
Yeah, it's like night and day, huh?
it's like a kaleidoscope at this point.
Well, there wasn't a time that I didn't go to the Cheesecake Factory back in the days, 80s, that you didn't have to wait 20 minutes to a half hour.
Yeah.
It was packed.
It was
all
packed.
the time.
You were waiting hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember this one time, the front desk, one of the girls told the story that Jean-Claude Van Damme came in. And Jean-Claude was like, they said, oh, it'll be whatever. They never quoted in hours. It was always in minutes.
Yeah.
That'll be 30 to 60, 60 to 90, or 90 to 120, right? Or 120 plus, right? And so they quoted him, I think, 120 plus because it was Woodland Hills. I mean, back then, Woodland Hills was
Hopping.
the heyday
Yeah.
for celebrities. It was hopping.
Yeah.
I mean, they were everywhere.
Yep.
I mean, that was the place to live, was Woodland Hills
Yeah.
back in the day. Not anymore. But, and so she said to him and quoted him the time, and he said, do you know who I am? And she goes, I do, Mr. Van Damme. She goes, your time is going to be 120 plus minutes, right? Because that was Overton's thing. He was like, nobody will get preferential treatment. And that's what I enjoyed about Cheesecake Factory. And even when I started to work there was no upselling. For those of you who don't know what upselling is in food service, let's say you go in and you order a whiskey and Coke, right? Did you want Jack?
Oh.
What kind of whiskey would you like? Meanwhile, whiskey refers to just the well. And he was all about, we don't upsell. If somebody asks you what vodkas you carry, then you list. But if somebody comes in and says, I want a vodka tonic, you give them a vodka tonic. You don't ever substitute or upsell them or anything. The only thing we were required to upsell was that dessert book, which was like a cheesecake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they didn't want it, they didn't want it.
Yeah.
No big deal. And that's what I loved about Cheesecake Factory, because Mimi's was all about sell them dressing, sell them carrot cake, sell them T-shirts, sell them hats, sell them pins. I was like, oh my God, do I work at Hard Rock Hotel
Like I sold the
Cafe?
curtains off the window.
Seriously, like it was everything about Mimi's was sell them muffins, sell them a pie, sell them quiche, sell them whatever you could possibly sell them. You're like, oh my God. I mean, it was wild. It was
Sounds like
really
a
wild. But that
nightmare.
was how they based and they catered to the retired community. Because, they said, if you have this regular, that means you'll make, for every regular that you have every year, if they come once a week, you'll make $5,000 a year, right? If you have 2 regulars, 10, so on and so forth, right? If it's a party of 4 and they come in and you split their checks and you split their food. We would split food. Oh my God, it was insane. You could get a ridiculous amount of food for like $9.99.
Wow.
Yeah. And let me tell you, with Northridge at the time, the community was primarily Jewish.
Oh.
And they're always looking for a bargain, right? That's not racist because it's not hateful. It's a fact. So, it's,
Allegedly.
yeah, it's a fact.
We'll be right back after these
Yeah.
messages.
Oh, we're canceled.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
And then show bombs going off. And
Are you in Gaza? No, I'm just talking.
Sending fireworks to Palestine. So, it was very rough. They were very demanding, and you worked for those tips. Let
Oh,
me tell
yeah.
you. In fact, it was so old back in the day, we had a smoking and non-smoking section.
Oh, God.
That's how long ago it was.
God.
People are like, what is that?
Yeah.
Maybe you should explain that
So
to
you
the people.
kids, back in the day, there was actually a smoking, not a vaping, but a smoking and a non-smoking section. In fact, also, too, on planes.
Yes.
You had a smoking, and that's a shocker
yeah,
because
yeah.
it was the entire plane. Where was that smoke going?
Mm-hmm.
well, in
In
front
the
of,
non-smoking.
in front of elevators at a department store, even a hospital, there was an ashtray.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there were ashtrays
everywhere.
so long.
Yep.
I mean, it's interesting still, too, to see that ashtrays are in cars. Because I feel like people don't smoke in their cars like they used to, or maybe they do.
They do. You just don't come around it as much.
Yeah, I mean, that was a selling point back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
There's an ashtray in the car. Because everybody was smoking. It was the coolest thing to do.
Yep.
Like vaping. And now they're all dead. Like vaping. So don't vape. God, where do we go with all of this? There's been so much that we've been talking about. Holy moly. I feel like there's more to talk about.
There
right?
is definitely more to talk about.
Holy shit.
But maybe not for this episode?
I don't know, man. Maybe not for this episode. I think we should switch up gears because it's been droning on about, I think we need to mix it up.
Okay.
Right? So, Angelo,
Yes.
who's dead?
I'm going to be if I don't come up with something good.
Yep. It's going to be at the end of that pool.
Well, it's interesting because since we were last at this round table, it seems like several celebrities have passed, right? Wow. So I know this is out for your cousin Art in San Diego.
Park overall.
Pete Rose has passed away.
My muscle
sadly.
gay cousin.
Yeah. Your
That doesn't eat carbohydrates.
I think I saw him eat a fry, but I'm not
Just one. We edited it that way.
Now,
One can
now I'm
dream.
convinced he ate a fry on that.
He did it on purpose. He did. Meanwhile, they probably just only had protein only.
So, may he go off to the Hall of Fame in heaven.
Dirty Pete Rose. Wasn't there like a
Scandal?
egregious things that he did?
Yeah.
Right?
So, betting scandal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he bets, yes.
Yep. So he's actually more known for that scandal than he is for his
For baseball, yeah.
for his baseball.
Oh, poor Petey.
On a more personal note, we lost John Amos from Good Times. I actually knew his daughter, Shannon. We went to, can I say that junior high school or just, we went to junior, we
Is
went
it still
to
around?
Oh yeah, we
No
went
clue.
to Porter Junior High School together. She was a senior, I was a junior. We got to know each other quite well during her last semester there. So my heart
How
goes
well?
out to her simply for the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty about her father's death. I don't know if you guys
Interesting.
have heard any of that
Well,
or read anything.
I didn't hear if there foul play, but I do know that he died in August.
Correct.
And this is October.
Correct.
Interesting.
So the sad part about it is she wasn't notified until 5 weeks after the fact.
Oh, wow.
And I haven't spoken to her. I did reach out and send her a text extending my condolences. But it's being reported, and she does an interview that's you can see on TMZ where wills have been changed and her brother, biological brother, and some other people that claim to be their father's publicist, John's publicist, maybe involved allegedly with some shenanigans of changing the will and elder abuse, and so it's heartbreaking.
Isn't that terrible when that happens?
but he
People
was-
just want to collect on that money.
It is sad because money will divide families, and people will kill for money and do all sorts of weird and horrible things. So I hope that for her sake gets straightened out. And he was kind of a big icon. I mean, a lot of
Wasn't he in Car Wash?
Maybe. I mean, I know the actor. I've seen him in a lot of things, but I can't pinpoint what was he most notable
Roots.
for.
Roots was the most notable.
Okay.
I believe that he was nominated for an Academy Award, but because he was black, he didn't win.
Well-
Shocker television.
Good Times is the
Oh yeah,
sitcom.
Good Times also too.
Yep.
But I think Roots really is
Yeah,
what kind of
put
like
him onto the spotlight.
because for what I remember, not that I was there, but when I remember, there was some dissension on his role at Good Times, and he left under circumstances that were never really publicized.
Yeah.
But he left the show. He wasn't told to let go. He wasn't let go or didn't end. He bowed out before the show actually
That's
ended.
right. Yep.
So then I think he kind of reaffirmed his name once Roots came out, which
Yeah.
was stellar. It was amazing. It was iconic to this day. People, well, not the young kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the last movie that he was in was Coming to America, the sequel. with
Oh,
Eddie Murphy.
yeah, on
Oh,
Amazon.
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, no, he was always
He was
in
in
it.
it. No, but he was also, but the last one.
Right? He was in both,
He was
no?
in both, correct.
He was in both, yeah, but he's saying the last one.
Yeah, he was the
in,
father. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
Where were they from? Zamunda, right? Is that their farm?
Well, he actually lived in Silmar.
Silmunda?
When Shannon went to Porter Junior High School.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah,
funny.
and Richard Simmons.
Oh,
Yeah.
You
poor
know.
Richard.
And apparently, I read that Richard Simmons, according to a story that they quoted his brother, Richard was buried in his workout clothes.
I mean, could you have him be buried any other way, though, to be honest?
No, but speaking of workout clothes, I don't know if you know this, Cousin Louie, but these were dropped off at my house.
Are they
And
Richard Simmons?
Apparently, I have to fix this hole.
Why have you been going through my
I
drawers?
found these in Danny's drawer, and I'm
Where's
like,
that hole coming from?
how convenient is this hole in the seat of his pants?
See, that's what
actually
happens.
the crotch.
That's what happens when you play grab ass with Jurgen.
for easy access.
Have you ever
So-
have you ever seen on the Pirates of the Caribbean those things that go they chase
Yes.
each other? That's how it is in my apartment with Jurgen and I. Of course, and actually over time you're gonna ruin the crotch. I've had those for over 15 years.
So for Danny's sake, and so his watermelons don't fall.
Yeah. So hopefully you can try to mend those.
I'm going
if
to.
Grammy were alive, I would have given them to Grammy.
Aw.
But
she wouldn't have worn them though.
yeah. But they're also too. They got worse. I had 3 pair like that. Doesn't the fabric look nice and new though?
Yeah.
I mean, rayon never goes
absolutely.
away.
Yeah.
No, you can't.
Ever.
Yeah.
It'll be in the landfills, but even when we're gone, right? Excuse me. But why the hole is so big? Oh my God! I never thought those words would ever come out of my mouth.
We're not shocked.
Yeah, we're kind of used to
Cousin
these.
Louie
We're
and
used
I
to
are
these
just kinda
stories
like,
by
yeah,
now.
whatever.
What the hell? Things that you thought you would never say.
Got stretched out over time.
Episode 9,452 at 2:52 on
Is that the title of the show?
What is going to fly?
The holes
yeah.
are too big.
Yeah, the holes are too big. The hole got bigger because as I.
You made that joke every time you said it. That make me laugh.
It's because I use them for swimming, and so when I swim, I take my little trunk chonies off, and I put them in there's like a spin machine that gets all the water out. Well, I'm not going to wear them again, so my sister bought me this really cool, like, chamois,
Oh.
so I wrap them up in there. It's great, right?
yeah,
and
yeah.
it, like, wicks away the moisture.
Oh, that's cool.
But then I put these back on because I'm only going 3 minutes down the road, so I can go, commando.
Right.
Well, when I put my foot in one time in the very beginning when I hadn't really learned a lot of balance yet, and I put my foot in, I literally put my foot in and it tore. And I was like, whatever, who cares, right? But the truth of the matter is, and the reason why I need them to be fixed, is because when I walk over to the car, I have leather seats.
Oh.
And when you sit down, it's instant, your balls get burned. It's
Yeah.
like... right? And I've definitely shared way too fucking much at this point.
They're
with
well
everybody.
done.
Yeah.
You are like your Uber passenger from last night.
Oh my God.
Let's wrap up this whole
Yeah.
ball shorts thing. Let's
Oh
get
my
outta here.
God.
Here, you're making Cousin Louie uncomfortable.
I'm so sorry.
Stop. It's just
I'm uncomfortable.
the thought of it
I am
alone.
uncomfortable to know that my poor little
Your mom
cojones-
switched off.
So hopefully your balls don't fall out like mine do. But with more
Allegedly.
when you get older, yeah, that's all I can say.
Well, at least you haven't sat on them yet, so.
Oh, that happens too. Yeah. Hopefully, that is Cousin Angelo's
Job
homework.
for the week.
Job for the week
Yeah.
to see if he can repair my elephant shorts
Oh, God.
for my elephantitis balls. So they no longer scorch on my hot leather seat in the valley where I live versus Montecito. So, yeah, I've shared way too much. Hopefully you've enjoyed all of these episodes the past few weeks. Again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for liking. You're my family. And my family is your family. Just don't show up. And so, with all of that being said, I hope you have an amazing week, an amazing day. And remember to always do it like Danny.
Make sure you tell them that you're not going to be here.
Oh, I almost forgot. Here I am telling you to like, follow, subscribe. I love everybody and blah, 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 blah. And I totally forgot to mention that this is the only episode for this week. I'm so sorry. My really good friend Anitra is kidnapping me. and she's taking me far, far, far away. And hopefully, I'll have some new stories, maybe some new footage, maybe some new videos, maybe a new ex-husband. Who knows? But what I can say is that I'm really sorry. Unfortunately, today is your only show. This week is your only show. But there will be more to come in the future, because I can foretell the future. And with that being said, now, have a great week. Enjoy yourself. And remember to always do it like Danny.